All right. So, Jess, thank you so much for being back on the show with me. I love having repeat guests.
Thank you.
So let's dive into why this is on your mind. Why is this your topic and your interest, your interest, and why you're writing a book about this and everything?
hmm
What's brought this to the forefront for you?
Well, when when I was 38, I'm now in my mid to late 40s, but when I was 38, I was a full-on therapist working with sexuality, and I took a class on sexuality. I started my ASECT program,
Hmm.
so to become a certified sex therapist, and in the very first class, I realized that I had a crush on the teacher, who was a woman.
Ah,
And, and that is something that I had never experienced in my entire life. It
okay.
had
So
never come into
it's
my
not like it
consciousness.
happened before, and you just that must not be what it is. Okay.
It was so flooring. Um, and and I, get asked a lot, like, how did you not know? And this is the thing, I just didn't,
Hmm.
and I wanted to know how I could not know.
Mm.
That part was the part that was really getting me, and so I started, deconstructing my sexuality with all of the literature I could find, the research I could find, and I came up with this concept of a sexual emergence, which is it's a change process. So if you look at the coming out process, and you've got like the classic Vivian Cass from the 70s, and then this really great updated version from M. Bishop um, on the milestones, right? So if you're going through all of that and you zoom into this moment where someone goes, wait, what? That's the moment I am trying to expand
Ah,
and
so that's one little point on their scale where it's like, oh,
Mhm.
wait, that's a whole process too.
That was the process that I lost complete balance.
Mm.
Like I am married to a cis man. I have a son at the time. He was a toddler. I mean, my entire identity of who I thought I was
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
my trajectory was just, it was completely shaken.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to think which direction to go here. So obviously you have this not only a personal journey, right, and work to do.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, let me bring this to other people. But what have you come to understand about sexual emergence as a process and as I don't know if you've have you talked to other people that are having this sort of later in life awakening that's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
who I
Because
thought I was.
it's not just realizing that you like a different gender or you're attracted to a different gender. I mean, this is like, I started putting this together with women that I work with who go through perimenopause and menopause, and all of a sudden their sexuality disappears,
Right.
or, their sexuality appears in a way where you're just like, blown over by it. Where is this coming from?
Mm.
Right? And pieces of our sexuality coming out later in life that we just had no idea, kinks, and I think I want to be non-monogamous, and all of these pieces, and so when I was looking through the literature, I came up, I kind of avoided this model because it was CBT, but then I realized that the third wave of CBT, ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, was exactly what I was looking for, because it's all about context, right?
Mm.
What is our sexual context? And so I started thinking about this as sexual contextualism, like
Hmm.
this concept. And when I thought about that, the first thought that came to my mind was Stephanie Bueller, sexological ecosystem.
Ah,
You know,
okay.
she takes uh, a point in your sexuality and fleshes it out across so many different levels and lenses, looking at the relationships between these levels. What was your gumbo, right?
Mm.
Like, how did you grow up sexually? And we I think sometimes we can forget that just like every other part of us developing, our sexuality is developing, from in
Right.
utero.
Right.
And so everything that's impacting your body and your mind is also, you're steeped in, for, sexually. That means trauma. That means social narratives and, all the isms.
Yeah. But if I'm hearing you right, it's not like, oh, I was gay and just didn't know it. It's like, no, my whole context, all kinds of things have evolved, and I find myself here now, and it's different than where I used to be.
Yeah, and trust me, I spent a long time trying to figure that one out and wrestle with it. And the truth is, I identify as bisexual, right? So um, I do think that, when I had this realization, I started immediately going back and back and back and back and remembering all of these girls and women and like I was dating their boyfriends, but like I I was I they were interesting to me now as an adult, as a, like I was like, oh, I had a crush on them. That's what
Mm.
that was, you know. And it doesn't mean I knew it doesn't mean it was like a latent gayness, like, or
Yeah,
a
yeah,
latent
yeah.
queerness. It's just the way that I see it. It was paper mache'd over,
Mm.
just all of these traumas, and my body never felt safe enough to have this rise up,
Mm.
until I was finally in this amazing partnership that I'm in with my husband and partner, and my body finally felt safe,
Mm.
and the slowly the paper mache started to kind of melt off, and this rose up within me, So I mean, I guess in a way it is kind of um, more of a latent thing, but I have talked to a lot of people that this is happening for. A
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people. So I grew up in the South personally, and I grew up with a lot of reasons to not have this piece of me rise up.
Right, right, right. Yeah. But like you say, even like post menopause and for libido to dry up, you find yourself a different sexual person. That's not
That's right.
that's not latency. That's just like context has changed, right?
That's
So I
right.
guess it can
Right.
apply either way, right? This concept
That's
of
right.
emergence. Well, and sexual fluidity. I remember talking to Lisa Diamond on the
Yes.
podcast a very long
Uh,
time ago about
uh-huh.
that, that sexuality is fluid, you know,
Oh my God, yes.
and
I think what
contextual.
and contextual. um, the Kline grid versus the Kinsey scale. You
Mm.
know, um, I think for their times these were amazing tools, and I think when I saw the Kline grid and the possibility that you could be attracted to one gender, and want to be in the life of a different kind of gender.
Would you mind for the listeners, just in case they
Mhm.
don't know what either of those things are, can you talk, what's the Kinsey scale compared to the Klein grid?
Okay, so sorry. Let me back up too, because I just switched to speaking of gender, and gender and
Okay,
sexuality are very different things,
right.
but they
Different
also
aspects. Yeah.
overlap.
Hmm.
Um, so the Kinsey scale was this classic scale. Gosh, I don't even know what year it was. I want to say the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, I'm not even
Um,
sure. Yeah.
and it's a 7-point scale, I think, where
Yeah.
it's a spectrum of heterosexuality to homosexuality.
Right. Which is
And
already interesting. It's not binary, right? We are, we not.
right.
There's a whole spectrum of that. So that's got value, so,
Yeah, and
that
that was
concept.
what blew it on the scene.
Right.
Like that's what made Kinsey so amazing at that time. He's saying you're not either or,
Right.
right? Or it's possible that you're not either or.
Right. Right.
Um, and then Kline comes out and she creates this whole grid of well, how do you feel sexually in this particular context?
Hmm.
You know, like in the context of having sex versus wanting to be in the life of someone who is gay, or, you know, wanting to be partnered with someone of the same gender or a different gender, you know, so it just, she's really kind of pulling it all apart.
Multidimensional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Four-dimensional chess. Right. So it is complex and it's changing and it's fluid and trying to come to an understanding of ourselves.
Hmm.
Valuable work, right?
Yeah.
That's the message here. Not like we should have known and it's a simple in one moment we've got clarity.
I think that's absolutely correct. So one of the reasons I love ACT, is because once you can see the bigger context of why we might be doing what we do, or why we might be um, acting, or feel the way we feel, right? Because of our history, the chance for compassion and normalization to come in, you know, be
Yeah.
like, you can take that breath and go, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and again, if you don't mind, if you could give a
Hmm.
little overview of ACT, acceptance
Hmm.
and commitment therapy. I've had no training in it actually, so I'd be curious to, to hear you describe, but my listeners will certainly want to know how do you give
Yeah.
a recap of what this modality is, and
Ooh,
then
yeah.
and then how you see
Um,
it as a perfect, I don't know, vehicle for exploring sexual emergence.
right. So ACT is, I'm going to look at my notes here because I want to do it in a way that is palatable. Uh,
Okay.
it teaches you how to hold hard things, and at the same time, instead of getting paralyzed by them, to move through them, to say, yes, this exists, and how can I move through this? And it does that by working with something called psychological flexibility. And that is ways that these are different avenues for creating space around these really intense narratives that we've been fused to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so let me just see, not having trained in this at all, right? Reality, I might have been sexually abused or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, and I might have whole stories about that. That can be true, and I can move through that, and I can challenge
That's
some of the
right.
meanings I've made of that.
That's right. I mean, and I have looked high and low for that silver bullet to be able um, to be able to just be free in my body,
Hmm.
right? And in my experience, there have been a few wonderful breakthrough moments, but most of the progress has been an unwinding and um, a learning to build a capacity to sit in the hard stuff. And that is at its essence exposure. I do think that CBT has been fundamentally different. It shifted things of how we look at how we process things. It
Hmm.
does have importance. I think it went a little too into a different direction than I was wanting to go.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I did find ACT, it's this new wave of starting to look at what is your relationship to those feelings and experiences and narratives that are leading you to these symptoms that you're feeling. Instead of trying to get rid of the symptoms, we don't want to try and get rid of the symptoms. They're serving a purpose, and
Right.
so instead, can you look at your relationship to those experiences and what the narrative is around that, and then deconstruct that using what they call the hexaflex. It's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, but it's a hexagon with these different components of psychological flexibility, and you've got acceptance, diffusion, present time awareness, values, self as context, and committed action. So that's
Mm.
just the quick breakdown. I can definitely send a picture of this.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that'd be good to paste into the show notes somehow. Can you
Um,
talk a little bit about then how you use this ACT lens or process to explore or support the emergence of sexuality? And maybe it's partly your own story and how you thought about it, but maybe another example too of what this looks like.
Sure, yeah. So I work a lot with spiritual slash sexual trauma. So I've worked a lot with people from various religious sects that are um, really austere and and rigid.
Yeah.
And I have had some people come in who literally cannot feel their genitals.
Mm,
And I have had people come in desperate to want to have children, but they can't have sex because they can't be penetrated, or it hurts too much, or they just collapse internally. Um, so working with what I call the sexaflex.
okay. Different 6 points on that scale,
No, it's
or
the same 6 points. I'm just talking.
okay.
It's like the hexaflex's sexy cousin. It's
Okay.
just
Okay. So just
um,
like sex therapy is talk therapy, but about sex, right? It's
right, right,
okay.
because it's still therapy.
Right, right.
Um, so I go through this model and I start pulling apart okay, the presenting symptom or problem is that you uh, can't feel your genitals. Let's go with that one, right?
Okay.
And then I reverse engineer of like what is happening. Well, I mean, first of all, we get medical clearance. I'm
Right, right,
always
right.
checking for that. Um, but you're going to start deconstructing in a way of looking at this person's context, you know. And I'm not there to tell this person you should or should not be in this religious um, group. That's not my job. My job
Right.
is to say, how do we hold your values, which is you have this spiritual belief that means something a lot to you, and at the same time, you want to have a baby,
Hmm.
and you want to have a family, and so we start looking at where can we put space around these really intense narratives, and then oftentimes I hear of, well, the sexual education they got was fear-based, or that people are cut off from the community. I mean, serious existential issues.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we explore all those things, and we can get just enough space in there when we can do that and have space for both of those things to exist. The values of connected to spirituality and this wanting to move through life as a parent, you know, um, that's when we start being able to get the internal motivation and buy-in and drive to start taking the committed action.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. What were the other points on that? Because I heard
Uh,
values, I heard committed action in terms of
yeah.
this example.
This example, let's see. So self is context, right?
Okay.
You're looking at what is your context.
Right.
That's
The
what you really
messaging, the
dig in.
sex ed, yeah, all of
Yeah,
that. Right. Okay.
yeah. Let's see. The present time awareness. It's really challenging to learn that something is a safe experience like sex if you can't be in your body long enough to feel it,
Right.
right? So that's the present time awareness. And the diffusion is you are defusing, you are fused to these narratives.
Mm.
It's like you took the lens and you laser focused, and we need to just put some space
Right.
around it.
That's the space building. Okay. Yeah.
Right. And what else? We did values, present awareness, acceptance, obviously. Um, acceptance is, I love this one from Stephen Hayes. There's no delete button,
Mm.
right? Like you can't, if you try to get rid of a feeling state or uh, part of your history,
Yeah, something that happened, right?
something that
It's there.
happened,
Yeah,
it will just come out sideways, and it
yeah,
usually does.
yeah,
And so, can you accept that this happened? It doesn't mean you have to like it. It doesn't mean you have to ever do it again. But can you accept that this experience happened? And from there, you can get past the paralysis. You know,
right.
you can say, okay, and now what?
Yeah. So in this example, there's a sort of trauma that's happened or
Mhm.
something negative to overcome or move past or, lose some rigidity around. Sexual emergence, I would imagine, is not always experienced as a negative thing with symptoms, right? So
Right.
how does ACT and the sexoplex support, I don't know, the exploration in a broader way, or brings like where's the beauty of it for something that isn't as experienced as negative, although maybe it's just shocking with the change.
Yeah, I think mainly, when I'm talking about sexual emergence, it is that initial shock. But the sexoflex, as far as working with it with other presenting issues, I work a lot with people who are around my age, so mid to late 40s, staying married a lot longer, living a lot longer, and realizing, that they're not really connected to who they are sexually. They're um, they they really they struggle to know what they want,
Hmm.
to know they've never given themselves the chance to even sit with that. A lot of people, because of what we're fed from different media narratives, we have our assigned roles, and we do them nicely.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, or we got used to having sex at 21 or whatever, right, in a certain way, and we didn't really, often wake up in our 40s or whatever and haven't questioned. We just kept going the way it was going and haven't really evaluated, does this work for me now? Is this what I want? Is
right.
this who I am? Right? Like it's,
Yeah. It can get really mechanical.
yeah.
Um, and that makes sense because we get to work with our jobs and our lives and our kids, and everything just is on autopilot. But then what happens is our kids get into middle school, and all of a sudden the partners are looking at each other going, wait, who are you?
Hmm.
And I know that we have this robotic sex like twice a week, once a week, but is there anything else to it?
Yeah.
You know? And so this is, I get a lot of people that come in and just their emergence is about, well, who am I in now? Who am I now? What was my context back then? What is my context now?
Hmm.
Um, and and we just kind of explore.
Yeah. So it also suggests to me that we don't need to wait until there's some sort of surprise or shock or problem to dive into this and deal with it. But like we could go looking for sexual emergence.
Oh, it's
Does that make
great.
sense? Like we could,
Yeah.
like we don't have to have some symptom or something driving us to therapy or something, but to start to think, wait, what is my context now? Who am I now in this at this time in my life, in this relationship, in this place?
Yes, and that is also what ACT is about. It's about you don't need to wait until, your ducks are in a row to go out and explore your sexuality. I mean, you might be dead. So so why don't you shift the mindset now? What can I do now in this moment? And so what I'm writing about right now, which is so exciting for me, is how do you do that?
Mm.
How does someone midlife or earlier in life or later in life, whenever, um, how do they go about deconstructing their gumbo? You
Mm.
know what I mean? And like looking at all the pieces of what they were steeped in,
Hmm.
and using the information from that to move through it and forward.
Yeah. Is it that's a silly question. Is this sort of like an oil change that you recommend every certain number of years? Or, because it
That is
seems like
amazing.
I mean, seriously, it's like not one and done or wait for the crisis. It seems like there would be value in taking stock and inventory and examining this every 3,000 miles or something.
Oh my God, Jessa, I feel like I'm on Car Talk.
If only I could do the Boston accent.
I know, I know. Um, yes, yes, that's why I'm so excited about this,
Yeah, yeah.
is because everyone gets to be a sex nerd, everyone gets to nerd out. And in the nerding out, they get to give this part of them that may have been compartmentalized their entire life a chance to breathe and
Yeah.
and just kind of look at the world with open the blinders.
Yeah. And because the context is different, 3,000 miles later, whatever, 5 years, you get a new opportunity to unwrap something or evolve, or, it's going to be a different discovery every time, it seems like, because the context is always moving.
It's true, and we're constantly, there is no static sexuality. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist. I know
Yeah.
people would love to put it in a box and really have it figured out, but
Yeah.
it's not,
Right.
and
Right.
neither is gender. And like there's some days I want to wear a dress and some days I want to wear pants,
Yeah.
So I do think that this is something that we can all be practicing all
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
and just a deeper awareness to it.
Really cool. Really cool. So, talk a little bit about, well, the book you're writing
Yeah.
and where people can find you or reach out, or what you might, I don't know, how they could interact with you or get help if they want it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm in Oakland, and I do therapy both in person and online, but I do it all for California. So you can just go to my site, which is either east-baytherapy.com or sexualcontextualism.com.
Wow.
If you
Oh,
can,
cool. I love that
and
you
you
got the
can.
URL.
Yes, I was
Hopefully you get
so
the
excited.
trademark.
Well, I was so excited when I put those words together. I was like, I gotta get the URL.
I was so excited when I got womenwritingerotica.com, and I was like, oh
Ooh,
yeah. And that's like nobody took that. So anyway, yeah.
I think GoDaddy knew what I was doing though, because as I was like, I was doing other kind of variables of this, and they started like the price started going up and up.
Oh yeah. I do worry about that sometimes. They say you're really interested in this. Let's charge you $400. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah.
So I at 46, I am now. I started an Instagram for
Okay.
my work, so you can find me at Jess underscore. No, sorry, I'm so I'm great at this. Jess Levith underscore CST, so
All
certified
right.
sex therapist.
Wait,
And
Jess Levith underscore CST. I'm making a note. So,
oh, great.
okay.
It's really, it will also be fun to watch the process of an older person trying to figure out Instagram.
Yeah.
So you can
Tell me about it.
watch my
I'm
emergence
I'm significantly older
online.
than you are, and it's like, oh man, I'm sort of figuring this stuff out. So, yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much. This was really a fun conversation.
Thank you,
An
Jessa. I
important
really
one.
appreciate it.
Important one.
Thank
Yeah.
you.